Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Atrey, and I'm a resource person for Unipsy Academy as well as a psychologist at Unique Psychological Services. So, I hope you all are doing great. Now, as the caption suggests, today is all about the very dreaded and the inevitable, जो हमें सबको face करना पड़ता है, which is your entrance exams. Now, I have been giving these entrance exams for the past 1.5 years, and because of a few successes that I feel I'm indebted to you all, other learners, aspiring candidates, to share what I've done, what works, and what doesn't. Because there's a lot of misinformation out there, there's a deluge of information out there. और हम ऑलरेडी इतने कंफ्यूज्ड और इतने स्ट्रेस्ड होते हैं उसमें क्या करना चाहिए और क्या नहीं करना चाहिए उसके बारे में आइडिया अगर पहले से रहेगा तो वील टेक लेस डिटूर्स एंड दिस एंटायर प्रोसेस विल बी अ लिटिल लेस पेनफुल. Now, before I begin, because I'm a key resource person of Unipsy Academy, what I also do is help Gagandeep Kaur, who is our लीड क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट, मैनेज द एकेडमिक डिवीजन. और हमारे डिवीजन में एक कैटलॉग ऑफ कोर्सेज है जो काफ़ी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव है और वो इसी तरह से डिज़ाइंड है ताकि आप अपने जितने भी एंट्रेंस एग्ज़ाम्स हैं, चाहे वो सुएट यूजी हो, सुएट पीजी हो, एमफिल या नेट जेआरएफ, सबको क्रैक कर पाए. उसमें ऐसे काफ़ी सारे रिसोर्सेज भी है जो आपको कहीं और नहीं मिलेंगे, which includes revision guides ताकि आप अपना रिविजन 1 घंटे के अंदर कंप्लीट कर पाए instead of going over an entire lecture which is of 2 or 3 hours. Then we also have terminology banks and glossary sheets, all of these which are quite important for any exam that is quite factual, which often MPhil exams tend to be. So keeping all that in mind, what I've done is, through my experience, I've built these resources and enriched already comprehensive resources that Gagan ma'am has built. She is an IHBS topper. So you do understand that the information that you'll get, the courses that you'll get will not only be comprehensive, but will be extremely test sensitive. So I'll show you a little bit about how our website looks, and then in 5 minutes or so, we'll move on to the main content for which you've tuned in here. I hope my voice is audible and there is no issue there. So this is our website, as you can see. Here we have an entire section called courses. When you click on this, you get to know about different initiatives that our organization does, including, if you scroll down a little, coaching. Now, this is our entire catalog. It has probably every entrance exam that you would want to give, that you need support for, and it's already there. And it's sectioned very properly, so you get every resource in a minute's notice. Additionally, we also have certain combo packs that will be available to you in a discounted rate. All right? Because a lot of students have messaged ma'am, inundated her WhatsApp that coaching is not affordable for us as students or as working professional or early career psychologists. So we need certain affordable opportunities in order to be able to crack this exam. So we have what we call as combo packs that we have. Let me also share this with you guys. Okay, I'll share the link in the chat after a while. But before that, before I bore you with all of these things, let's just move on to a bit about what this session is about. Okay, so the first thing that we need to talk about is what to study or what not to study. Now, when we look at the syllabus, चाहे वो सुएट यूजी का हो, सुएट पीजी का हो, नेट का हो या एमफिल का हो, आप देखोगे कि आप सिलेबस देख के ही घबरा जाओगे. Because oftentimes they're not only things that you are supposed to learn from NCRTs, from your bachelor's का course, from your master's का course, but बहुत सारे ऐसे topics होते हैं जो आपको कभी कराया नहीं जाता. The faculty either doesn't take initiative or the syllabus is not that great in our universities. So we have to learn or go beyond the things that we have been taught formally, right? What is very important and the first thing that any aspirant should do, चाहे वो स्वेट यूजी पीजी नेट या एमफिल का एग्जाम दे रहे हो, कि वो अपना सिलेबस डाउनलोड करे from official source. Alright? Once you do that, then you should actually focus your study around those very specific subtopics. What you also have to understand is in the market, you'll see that there are people who are going to advertise that you need to read these specific books in order to crack a certain exam. Often, those books are not written from the perspective of cracking entrance exams. Entrance exams के जो demands होते हैं, they're very different from a general academic course. Like आप बहुत लोगों को देखोगे वो बोलेंगे कि आप सीजर रैली करो, राइट? प्रिपरेशन में सीजर रैली एक बुक है जो काफ़ी बार आपको बताया जाएगा कि ये कर लो, इससे जनरल साइकोलॉजी कंप्लीट हो जाता है. देन देयर बी आल्सो अनदर बुक दैट विल कम इन माइंड व्हिच इज बैरन, राइट? These are all some very household names that every psychology student knows. और वो बोलेंगे एनसीईआरटी कर लो फॉर स्वेट यूजी, राइट? Now the thing is that these books are not designed for entrance exams. They're there to give you conceptual clarity and nothing else. But if you look at the past year papers, you'll see that in entrance exams, questions are not only asked about um, concept clarity, but they're also about finding the tricky or the wrong options, eliminating that. Then you'll also encounter certain application-based questions. उनको कैसे टैकल करता है ये एनसीईआरटी पढ़ के, सिजरैली पढ़ के, बैरन पढ़ के नहीं समझ आएगा. So you, whatever sources you need, whether you join our coaching, enroll on our courses, and seek our feedback, or somewhere else, wherever you afford, make sure that the course that you have enrolled in or paid for is aligned well with the demands of the exam. If the course is meant for something else and you are you're being told कि ये इससे exam हो जाएगा, इससे ये हो जाएगा, that will not work. Similarly, if you just read textbooks, I don't think it works. So again, this is a point of caution कि आप जहाँ से भी पढ़ो, make sure that whatever material you read is test sensitive. The word test sensitive is very important. Alright? This is the first tip to ensure that you do not falter even before you begin. Because a lot of aspirants get stuck here. They start reading big books, such as Kaplan for M.Phil Clinical Psychology exam. Kaplan is a big book. It's about 5,000 pages. A lot of people will recommend it, but I wouldn't recommend it at all. Instead, watching audiovisual sources would be a lot better for your learning. We as psychology students know that we learn best when most of our senses, if not all of them, are engaged while we're learning, right? So that's the first point. What to study and what not to study. Your syllabus is your best friend. The second thing that is your best friend and you should be treating as a compass is your previous year questions. Now, previous year question papers are actually the only official source that you should trust blindly. चाहे आप कुछ और करो ना करो, कोई मॉक टेस्ट सीरीज ज्वाइन करो ना करो, प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस को आपको ध्यान में रखना चाहिए. For CUET-UG, CUET-PG, as well as NET, the previous year papers are actually available at your disposal to be able to download from your NTA's official website. For M.Phil Clinical Psychology, it's a little complicated because सारे इंस्टीट्यूट्स अपने क्वेश्चन पेपर्स रिलीज नहीं करते, एग्जाम के टाइम वो क्वेश्चन पेपर दोबारा ले लेते हैं, so it's a little dicey. What I have done is, because I'm part of other aspirant networks, so I have gathered resources for even M.Phil Clinical Psychology and uploaded those PYQs in our courses as well, from some important institutes that often aspirants aim for, such as RML and others. It's there on our course at your disposal, the bank. You can refer to it and use it as your guide. Even other exams, for instance, if you're preparing for CUET-PG. CUET-PG के होने से पहले, there were many other entrance exams that you used to give in order to get into a master's program, like DUET. I myself gave the DUET exam. I secured an All India rank 56 there. Now, DUET or SUET के जो questions है, the patterns and all of the patterns and trends are quite similar. So it does make sense to study DUET papers as well. And again, as a resource person, I've uploaded these on our course packages. Again, because I know how important it is for the aspirants to look at these resources. Now, These are your two sources that will allow you to understand at every step of the way the syllabus and the PYQ as to what you should study and what you should not study. All right. Now, how to make the right study plan is the next topic on our agenda. Something that I guess we all struggle. और यहाँ पे बहुत लोगों ने क्लिक भी किया होगा इस वीडियो पे कि कोई मेरे को बना बनाया प्लान दे दे. But I would like to bring one thing to your notice. Every topper I have known, considering even I am one of them, I know that if you want to succeed in any entrance exam, you should not rely on a timetable that is given to you by somebody else. Now, there's a very logical reason for this. All of those who are listening to us will know that we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. Some of you might be scared of research and statistics, but I also bet that there'll be some of you who find this unit to be very fun and the only one that's clear to them. Why? Because you don't need to memorize a lot compared to say biological basis of behavior where you need to memorize a lot. But कुछ लोगों का biological basis of behavior strength होता है. तो ये difference इसके वजह से it is important that you keep in mind your strengths and weaknesses and you allocate time accordingly as you prepare a study plan. Now, what happens at UniSci is that all of our enroll learners have this facility where they can contact me, and in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, I can help them sort out their study plan and timeline, where I actually inquire about what their strengths and weaknesses are and we allocate time accordingly. Now, ये आपको अगर थोड़ा लगा कि मैंने ये टॉपिक अवॉइड ही कर दिया, ऐसा नहीं है. There's one tip that I would like to give you, whether you're giving CUET-UG, CUET-PG, or NET JRF exams, or even M.Phil exams. The one thing that makes your study plan perfect is say whatever time limit you have in front of you, whether it's 6 months, 8 months, or 10 months, 80% of that time initially will be for study. Okay? So, say suppose you have 6 months at hand, make sure in that 6 months, the first 4 months, you dedicate 80% of your time towards reading the information, gathering knowledge. All right? And the remaining 20% of the time to practice. Now, the moment the fourth month ends, then you have to go to practice more. All right? Your orientation or your perspective towards studying has to change then. Then 80% of your time is to be dedicated to doing deliberate practice of MCQs. And 20% should be studying. Studying what? MCQs में जो गलत हो रहा है उसको remediate करना. देखना कि अगर ये गलत हुआ है concept, ये क्यों गलत हुआ है? Is it because I don't understand it? Did I not read the question? Did I not read the options correctly? So all of this is imperative. So whether you're giving any exam, please do bear in mind to keep your strengths and weaknesses in mind. That is the starting point of building your timetable. If you join UniSci, I will help you do that. The second thing is that whatever exam you're preparing for, make sure in the first quarter you dedicate more time to learning or acquiring knowledge and 20% of that time towards deliberate practice of MCQs, either PYQs or you join a mock course, mock test series. And then in the last leg of your preparation, say 2 months or so, you do practice on a mission mode basis, where 80% of your day goes into practicing just MCQs. And it really helps a lot. I think सबसे ज़्यादा एंट्रेंस एग्जाम देने में दिक्कत इसलिए लोगों को होती है बिकॉज वो डर जाते हैं. उनके दिमाग में यही चलता है कि अगर होएगा, अगर नहीं होएगा तो हम क्या करेंगे, बिकॉज इतना ज़्यादा कॉम्पिटिशन है. वी ऑल नो हाउ, particularly in case of humanities and psychology in general, there are very less seats. And because of that, the cutoffs soar and there's a lot of competition. So every time anybody sits to prepare for this exam, the first thing that's in their head is मेरा तो मेरे को नहीं लगता होएगा, मेरे से सिलेबस नहीं होगा, अगर हो भी जाए तो मेरे को नहीं लगता मेरा मैं ये प्रोग्राम ज्वाइन कर पाऊंगी. इसका एक वे आउट है, and I feel that it's more of a mindset game, that you need to understand that in entrance exam, in order for you to excel, you don't need to be the best, you just need to be the better one. You need to be better than others. Why? Because the scoring is relative. If your cutoff is not arbitrary, it's decided by a certain person's score. You just have to be better than them. See, for instance, in your NET GRF exam, what is the total score? It's 300. Nobody gets 300 out of 300. Your aim is to approximate that score, but not exactly get that. Your mindset should be to be as close as 300, but you don't have to score 300. You just have to get close to it. If you keep the mindset of I have to be a little better than others, तो आपका preparation का strategy change हो जाएगा. You will bear in mind that you're not competing against an arbitrary cutoff, you're competing against other people. And believe me when I say this, that 90% of people out there, they don't practice enough. They study and एग्जाम देने पहुंच जाते हैं और फिर उनसे क्वेश्चंस नहीं हो पाती इवन दो they know everything. That's because practicing MCQs is an art in itself. It takes time to develop that aptitude, and especially for us humanity students who are more habituated in giving subjective exams, it's very hard to shift into that mindset to give objective questions and answering objective questions. So you do need plenty of practice. At Unisci, we have a comprehensive bank of 5,000 questions per course. All of it is designed in a way so that you practice and remediate. तो क्या होता है कि हमारी questions के बाद solution लिखा होता है और solution का explanation दिया होता है, and that explanation is not just why the solution is correct but why the distractors are incorrect or the incorrect options are incorrect. So in that way it helps you remediate. Okay, now we have discussed the first 2 points. Are there any doubts that anybody would like to ask? You can use the chat box to ask doubts. I will clarify them. Or you can also reach out to us at the contact that's given in the caption. We can also solve your query if you wish to do that privately. Now, some other things that I would like to say is that you will see that in psychology exams particularly, ये हमारे लिए थोड़ा advantageous ये हो जाता है कि सारे जो एग्जाम्स हैं, चाहे वो स्वेट यूजी हो, पीजी हो, नेट हो या एमफिल हो, इस पे एक कोर चंक जो है सिलेबस का वो कॉमन रहता है. After we all give our SUET UG exams, you guys will be in bachelor's, right? And then after that, you have different exams to give, which is your SUET PG, and then NET, then MPhil. There's also GATE, right? Now the interesting part is that in your NET exam, in your MPhil exam, and in your GATE exam, as well as your SUET PG exam, the majority of the syllabus is actually same. In fact, I'd recommend if anybody wants to give um, any exam, they should prepare for NET JRF. The reason for that is that once you prepare for NET JRF, the syllabus that you'll cover will be 70% to 80% of every other exam that is remaining, whether it's SUET PG, whether it's MPhil, or whether it's GATE. So, if you master the NET syllabus, it will be easy for you to give every other exam that's out there. You'll make your effort more streamlined, और आप confuse कम होंगे और आपके efforts बार बार कम लगेंगे. So, the ideal preparation for any aspirant right now would be if they're starting off with the field, if they're in 11th and 12th, I'll give a suggestion to them, and I'll also give a suggestion to all the others. Is if you're in 11th and 12th, after you prepare for your SUET UG and you get into a bachelor's program, in your bachelor program, slowly and steadily start to cover the syllabus of NET JRF. You will see that the level of questions that are asked in NET JRF, if your faculty is competent enough, if your university is good enough, if they've given you a comprehensive list, you'll be covering most of those concepts in your college. So if you start to study those concepts in a steady manner for 4 years, it will be better for you than panicking and trying to complete that syllabus later on in your life. So what happens after you complete the NET JRF syllabus is that you're definitely going to score a, uh, a great rank in your SUET PG as well. So वो क्या होता है, with one leg of preparation you'll be able to crack a series of exams. So if I have to tell you what key topics to master, there's one thing that I'll recommend for you guys is to download the NET JRF syllabus for psychology and read through the topics. If you're able to cover those topics, you'll be able to conquer any psychology entrance exam that lies after SUET UG. I guarantee you that. Because I also, when I prepared for my NET JRF, I simultaneously gave my GATE exam and my PhD entrances exam. my job was done quite easily because net is so comprehensive. It will cover most of the concepts that I need, and any little extra concepts that are there, I can study them. It doesn't take a lot of time. That is definitely less amount of effort put in compared to say अगर मैं एक एक एग्जाम के लिए अलग अलग से प्रिपेयर करूँ. Alright, so now we have covered the key resources to the right resources to use, the key topics to master. We've also done how to create a timetable, what to study and what not to study. Right now, one of the things that you might be interested in knowing is that what do toppers do differently in order to ensure that they get a great rank. Now, I will share a certain study with you that was done, I think, in MIT. Right now, MIT is known for studying the neurocognitive basis of learning. Now, MIT में एक study था. I'm assuming it's MIT. Please do correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember the citation exactly. So in this study, what happens is that there's an experiment where there are three groups of people. Right? The three groups of people are told to memorize a piece of information. The first group is shown the information that they're supposed to memorize thrice. The second group just twice, and the third group just once. Okay, so this experiment happens over 3 days. The first group is shown the information thrice, one exposure per day. जो सेकंड ग्रुप है उसको फर्स्ट 2 दिन में इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलता है और थर्ड दिन में उनको बोला जाता है आप याद करने की कोशिश करो उस इन्फॉर्मेशन, वो क्या इन्फॉर्मेशन हमने आपको दिखाई थी. और जो थर्ड ग्रुप था उसको एक दिन ही इन्फॉर्मेशन एक्सपोज किया गया और सेकंड और थर्ड डे में उनको कहा कि आप याद करने की कोशिश करो आपने क्या पढ़ा था. The interesting bit is the researchers actually asked the group after the experiment was over, how confident do you feel about the test that you're going to attempt right now? Okay. The first group, which was exposed to the information thrice, repeatedly over the course of 3 days, said they were the most confident. And the last group, which was only exposed to the information once, said they were least confident. Right? जब उनको टेस्ट दिया गया और रिजल्ट्स आए, ये देखा गया कि जो थर्ड ग्रुप था that scored the most, despite being not that confident about their abilities. Now, the reason for this is using active methods of studying or learning. 90% of students out there make a mistake that they think that they're learning when they're going over their notes and highlighting and reading it again and again and again. It only helps you to a certain extent to gain knowledge, but after that, it's not that helpful. The reason why the third group excelled is because they forcefully and willfully tried to remember what they had learned. Once they started to recall whatever they had learned, they knew कि उनको ये आता है कि उनको नहीं आता है. Because they tried to recall what they had learned, they were a little unsure. उनको लग रहा था कि मेरे को तो ढंग से याद नहीं है exact information. But that effort they put to recall the information was essential, that helped consolidating their memory. That also gave them feedback about the areas they know or the areas they need more clarity in. Okay, therefore it is essential, and if there's one thing that you leave with from this webinar is that you need to practice. You need to test yourself. Now, testing yourself is very important for subjective exams. When we try to do practice tests, we write model answers. But for objective exams like MCQs, the best way to test yourself is to do practice papers, or it can also be an interesting exercise if you're willing to do, is after you watched your lecture or you have read your notes or your books or whatever, you close that and you try to recall what you've read. Once you've recalled that, you open the book again and see what you missed or what was incorrect in your recall, and you remediate. This back and forth between your study material and you recalling is very important for you to learn. That is what actually learning is. If you don't engage in that, then you're not learning. Now, this free recall thing is a little difficult when your syllabus is a little vast, जो हमारे competitive exam में usually होता है. So the best thing to do in that case is to take out a bank of MCQs. Say you finished history of psychology, history of western psychology, ठीक है. वो आपने लेक्चर देख लिया या किताब में वो सेक्शन पढ़ लिया, उसके बाद आप MCQs खोले उस पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन का और अटेम्प्ट करें. जहाँ पे आपका अटेम्प्ट खत्म हो जाए उसके बाद क्या करें, आप आंसर की से चेक करें. जो जगह गलत होगा, यू review the solution by going back to the book and seeing whatever went wrong and why it went wrong. What we have done at Unipsy is that our MCQ banks are curated in a way where you have the question, and then we not only have the solution of what is the right answer, but we also have an explanation that goes back and grounds that answer in the theory itself. So it's easier for the learners to remediate. They don't again have to open their book to review that concept. So it saves your time. So that's why I feel that if you do end up joining our courses, it would be quite helpful for you, because when it comes to entrance exam preparations, the one thing I know is time is of the essence. The more you can save time by reducing the amount of decisions you have to make about kya kare, kya na kare, kaise na kare, the better it will be. The more the competitive edge that you'll have. All right. So I hope abhi tak sab kuch clear hai. If there's any doubt, again, the chat box is open. I'm here till 3:50 to 4. I can solve your questions or the queries that you do have. All right. Now, while you think of questions, if you do want to ask questions, I also do want to share some ways in which you can think about solving MCQs a little differently. क्या होता है, आप कोई भी एग्जाम दो, उसमें 10-15 ऐसे क्वेश्चंस होंगे जो आप अगर सिलेबस कंप्लीट भी कर दोगे शायद आपको नहीं आएगा, राइट? एंड इट देयर व्हाट हैपेंस इज योर MCQ एप्टीट्यूड प्लेज अ बिग रोल. जो आप प्रैक्टिस करके सीखते हो, एग्जामिनर की साइकोलॉजी समझने की कोशिश करते हो कि उन्होंने ये क्वेश्चन क्यों सेट किया और ये ऑप्शंस क्यों लाए. अगर आप प्रैक्टिस करोगे तो आपका ये एबिलिटी बढ़ेगा देखने के लिए कि यार ये ऑप्शन तो गलत दिख रहा है, बिकॉज दे यूजिंग वेरी एक्सट्रीम वर्ड्स लाइक ओनली और नन. These words sort of should trigger an alarm in you कि ऐसा तो हो ही नहीं सकता कि कोई भी ऐसा इंस्टेंस नहीं है कि ये particular example इस पे काम नहीं करता. So what I'll do is I'll demonstrate certain questions that will allow you how to prepare when you have really bad memory, like really bad, and you're not used to studying a lot. Okay, so I will give you my example. I don't think I have a very great memory. The great thing about entrance exams, particularly psychology, is that they're not testing your recall ability, they're testing your recognition ability. So the answer is right in front of you. You just need to identify which one is it. Okay, so if you want to hone that ability, the best thing is to do is not to memorize your notes, but I'm telling you, just whichever source you're referring to, whether it's a book or a lecture or a tech or a video course or whatever, or notes for that matter, just read a particular section, say Willem Wonka section, and then you practice MCQs regarding that section. A sectional test is such. So say suppose net exam ka unit 1 is your history of psychology, right? History of psychology from Western and Eastern perspective. Once you've read your source material, whichever you've selected, right, then you go and attempt certain MCQs. Through attempting the MCQs, what will happen is that that effort of having to recall what you had read will happen automatically. आपको अलग से कोई रिविजन टाइम सेट असाइड करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है कि मैं आज बैठ के ये प्रिंसिपल्स या थियोरीज या फैक्ट्स याद करूँ. आप डायरेक्टली बाय द वे ऑफ प्रैक्टिसिंग MCQs, you're trying to recall what you read. And it is important for entrance exams that you do MCQs is because your more than your recall memory, your recognition memory is being tested. So the more you view MCQs, the better your memory will be. So it's actually not that big of a drawback if you do not have a good memory, because I also don't have a good memory. What I felt is like if you do enough practice of MCQs, most of the answers will come to you naturally. It won't even be too effortful for that. And if you're not used to studying a lot, I used to study in the beginning for 4 hours a day. And then by the time the exams were right around the corner, you'll see that naturally, if you're invested in that process of giving the exam, if you really do want to clear it, end tak aate aate, when you'll be practicing a lot, remediating a lot, what will happen is you'll naturally, without your intention, increase your study time. एग्जाम से पहले आप देखोगे आप 10-20 घंटा देने के लिए भी तैयार हो. शुरू में इतना नहीं होता. So I'll say take a staggered approach. Don't start with 12 hours or 14 hours initially. Start with a small amount of time, say 4 hours, and then slowly pick up. It can also be possible that your study atmosphere is quite unpredictable, so it's hard for you to cordon off and assign कि आज मैं 8 घंटे पढ़ूंगा. ऐसे नहीं होता. It's usually applicable when we are in high school, but it's not applicable afterwards because we have a lot of other responsibilities as well, particularly if you're a working professional. So in that case, having weekly targets is a lot better than assigning study hours to yourself. So what will happen is before the week begins, you create a to-do list, but don't try to put too much of stuff. Probably 5 to 7 things that you want to accomplish this week. Make them very pointed to-dos, such as topics or micro topics. And throughout the week, it doesn't matter whether you have 2 hours at hand or 10 hours at hand. Try to complete. अपने दिमाग में ये एजेंडा रखो कि मेरे को by the end of the week I have to complete this to-do list. So if you finish it off beforehand, that's well and good. But you can spread your study hours accordingly at your disposal, at your comfort, rather than strictly एक school जैसा timetable अपने आप के लिए बनाना. So this works for working professionals. But again, for the general population, I'd say start slow, start little, and then increase and compound. Because what will happen is if you initially आज आप बोलोगे कि मैंने पहले कभी 1 घंटे से ज़्यादा I have not done any productive work, and suddenly I'll set aside a timetable where I'm attempting to do 12 hours of work in a day. इतनी suddenly ये shift नहीं आएगा. You have to do it slowly. Okay, because there's a thing called neuroplasticity where your brain also has to reorganize itself to make use to the context that you're building, the new activities that you tend to do. So it's better to take it slow. So if you have your study goals, say if you want to prepare or attempt the NET exam in December or the CUET exam in the next year, CUET UG and PG, or M.Phil exams in this year, take into consideration how much time you have, start slow, and build your study hours or compound your study hours accordingly. So that will be my advice, right? So we have the last three topics to deal with. Um, no problem. Thank you so much for asking that out. We I'll show you a little bit about this so-called MCQ aptitude thing that you develop once you do MCQ practice. Now, do we see this question in our screen? This is actually, you wouldn't believe it or so, it's a question for CUET UG. मतलब ये उन बच्चों के लिए जो बैचलर्स में अभी तक गए नहीं हैं. यहाँ पे पूछा गया है कि नेचर नर्चर स्टडीज के अकॉर्डिंग यहाँ पे ट्विन्स और सिबलिंग की आईक्यू के हिसाब से हाई टू लो कोरिलेशन में रैंक करो. This is a complicated question. Why? Because in the exam pressure, accounting for these multiple statement questions is really hard. So how should we do this? Now, the best thing is when you have multiple statement questions, especially when you have to order this, I'd say focus on the first and the last possibility. Now, हमें क्या करना है? IQ के हिसाब से we have to arrange them. तो अगर हमें थोड़ा सा भी नेचर नर्चर स्टडी के बारे में आइडिया है, हमें पता है कि हाई IQ कोरिलेशन हमेशा आइडेंटिकल ट्विन्स में होता है और लो IQ कोरिलेशन हमेशा सिबलिंग्स में होता है बिकॉज ऑफ द जेनेटिक मटेरियल. So I will look for wherever we are starting with identical twins option में कहाँ पे होगा? C, right? Identical twins read together, and there's also identical twins read in different environment. Now यहाँ पे nature nurture study के हिसाब से identical twins read together will be sharing greater IQ similarity. Why? Because they're getting the same environment and the same genetic material. So logically, I would place C as the first one. Now, the moment I place C as the first one, I can eliminate two options, and that actually reduces my cognitive load. Then what you'll do as an aspirant is you'll cut off 2 and 3 in front of you. So the only thing that you have to consider is C and 1 and 4. Now remember I said focus on the last next. Last क्या आएगा? जिसका genetic material भी सबसे different होगा और जो अलग environment में rare किए गए होंगे. So this is siblings rare apart. So the moment you get D, you get your answer. You don't even need to look at the other options. All right? So this is, was this screen not a, let me just share it again. Is the screen visible now? Just let me know, then I'll proceed. All right. So what I was saying is when you have multiple statements and you have to order something, like increasing, decreasing, or in sequence, the best thing to do is to look at what is the first step and what is the last step. यहाँ पे हमें IQ के हिसाब से ऑर्डर करना है, कहाँ पे IQ सिमिलैरिटी सबसे ज़्यादा है और कम है, उसको हाई टू लो के ऑर्डर में हमें अरेंज करना है, राइट. सो यहाँ पे if we have any idea about nature and nurture studies, we know that identical twins will have the will have the highest level of similarity in their IQ scores. The reason for that is that genetic material is similar. They are what we call as monozygotic, right? And if we talk about um, those who have the lowest IQ correlation, कि इनके IQ levels और score सबसे different होंगे, तो siblings होंगे, क्योंकि इनका genetic material बिल्कुल different होगा एक दूसरे से. So I automatically know that I don't need to look at fraternal twins. So I won't even read that option. Now, identical twins दो है. Identical twins reared in different environment, reared together, right? Now we know that highest correlation कब होगा जब environment में भी similarity होगी और genetic material में भी similarity होगी. So identical twins reared together makes sense to me. That should be the one where we have highest correlation of IQ scores. So I would automatically eliminate 2 and 3 option because they start with A and B. If we know that it should start with C. Now the next step I told you is to look at the last option. Okay, जहाँ पे IQ correlation हमारा सबसे low होगा. ये कौन से होंगे? सिबलिंग्स. और सिबलिंग्स कौन से? जिनको एनवायरनमेंट सेम मिल रहा है कि एनवायरनमेंट डिफरेंट मिल रहा है? एनवायरनमेंट डिफरेंट मिल रहा है, मोर वेरिएबिलिटी. सो दैट्स व्हाई ई, sorry, D. So that's why the first option is correct, even without looking at other options or other sequences here. So this is how you save time. Now this comes with practice. This cannot come by just reading content, whether it's looking at your notes, whether it's listening to lectures and so on and so forth. It has to come from practice. So again, if there's one takeaway that you have from this session, please do practice, because I guarantee you 90% of the people out there aren't practicing. And as I said time and again, competitive exams is about doing better than others. The benchmark is always relative and it's not arbitrary. So if you're better than 90% of the people out there, I guarantee you you're in whichever exam you're talking about. Okay, or whichever exam you're aspiring to sit for, right? Shall we do another MCQ, or I think this is a good enough demonstration? I think I've explained that point pretty well, so I won't harp on that particular point again. Now, if there is a success mantra for making sure that your practice is effective, I would share what I did. I kept track of my scores. The first thing I did was, whether it is whichever mock test series or whichever coaching that you want to refer to, you go ahead and do that. But the point is that you yourself need to make certain efforts here, and that will be what separates you from others. So the first thing that you need to do is, whenever you give your mock test, please make sure that you give it in simulated conditions. You time yourself. If your exam is going to be for 1.5 hours, you make sure that you're attempting the mock in 1.5 hours. खत्म हो गया टाइम और कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ पेपर, कोई बात नहीं. In your practice sessions, it's the optimum time to make mistakes. It's best that you make as many mistakes as you can while you're practicing, because believe me, your mistakes are something that linger in your memory for longer than whatever you attempt correctly. So it's actually good that you make mistakes, and it's best to make mistakes while you're practicing instead of on the actual exam or the D-Day. The first thing you need to do is simulate the conditions. Sit alone while you give the exam in quietude, because क्या होता है एग्जाम के टाइम में, अगर आप प्रेपरेशन के टाइम में काफ़ी नॉइजी एरिया में आप अपना मॉक अटेम्प्ट करोगे, क्या होगा? यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू सिट अलोन विद योर थॉट्स. It is very important to sit alone with your thoughts while you give your mock test. Why? Because that's where doubts come in. When you sit alone with your thoughts, you'll see that while reading question, you'll be like, ये option भी सही लग रहा है, ये option भी सही लग रहा है, ऐसा क्यों? But if you sit in noise or if you give it casually, ये doubts आपको encounter नहीं होंगे, and you won't get used to these doubts. And it is very important that you get used to these doubts. So that is why, first point, simulate the exam conditions in terms of time, in terms of context, in terms of noise and ambient uh, environment. Second thing to do is, after you attempt your exam, you have to check your answers, of course. But it shouldn't stop at checking your answers. You ought to remediate. When I say remediate, what happens? You take a screenshot of the question you got wrong, including the solution. Right? Read the solution, try to understand it. If the explanation of that solution makes sense, then you stop right there. You consider that your learning is done. If it doesn't make sense, then you go back to the book, you go back to the lecture and the comprehensive source, and you try to read it again in context. Then it should be clear. Then you can mark that this area is remediated. I will not make an error here. And this extra step that you take, this effort, is particularly important because this is what rewires your brain. This is what neurologically makes sure that you're learning. Your neurons are reorganizing and making sure that you're learning new things. If you don't put in this effort, this reorganization in your brain won't happen. You won't learn. So learning has to be effortful. It doesn't matter if it's a 2 hour effort, if it's a 1 hour effort, if it's a 3 hour effort, if it's a 12 hour effort. Anybody who says that they're studying for 10 to 12 hours a day, every day, they're lying to you. It's not possible. वो एग्जाम के पहले ही होता है 1-2 हफ्ते, हर रोज नहीं होता. So whenever you sit to study, make sure that you're focusing because you need to put in effort, whether it's 2 hours, 1 hour, or whatever. Okay. Smaller, effortful sessions are a lot better than distracted long sessions. You'll save your time, you'll save your effort. The third thing you do is when you're keeping the screenshots, I'd suggest you number this, name your screenshots by the unit or the topic name followed by a number. That number is very important, is because when you will attempt 16 to 17 such mocks or like a dozen of mocks, you will see that in certain areas you're repeatedly making mistakes. These would be your priority areas. So right before the exam, you can focus on these concepts a little bit more. Dedicate like 1 hour before the night to just review these particular concepts where you have made repeated errors. Then the last thing that you need to do is, and this will tie into managing the exam stress really well, is what happens is कि चाहे आप कितने भी इमोशनली स्टेबल हो ना हो, before the exam, particularly 1 week before the exam, what happens is that we feel that we haven't done enough. Doubts start to creep in, and that's actually pretty normal and pretty ubiquitous. सबके साथ ये होता है. In order to be able to manage that, the thing that works for me is not the validation of others. What works for me is seeing concrete proof that I have put in efforts and that I have improved and I do have the capacity. That if I can do so in practice, I can actually do so when I have to do it in actual examination setting. So one thing that I would like you guys to do is, from today onwards or whenever you start practicing, as early it is, the better it is you keep a diary where you do nothing but write the number of particular mock tests. Say it's mock test 1 और आपका जो स्कोर आया. ओके. सिमिलरली जितने भी देते रहोगे, ऐसे आप अगर अपने स्कोर को ट्रैक करते रहोगे, राइट बिफोर योर आईज you'll have evidence that you started somewhere that was pretty bad or not good enough, and eventually, after so many hours of study, you did progress further. That proof in front of you would be better than any validation that you can get from anybody. Now, if you do need extra support and feedback continuously on how to improve certain complex areas like normal probability curve, degrees of freedom, research and statistics, तो सबको डर लगता है, I feel. But it's one of my favorite areas to study in psychology. Then there's biological basis, the developmental psychology, or generally exam stress. We at Unique Psychological Services, particularly, we have an initiative that you get your doubts solved within 48 hours. I make sure that it happens because I know that instead of having doubt clearing sessions every once in a week, to have an educator at your disposal to clarify doubts then and there, because feedback is only essential and only effective if it's immediate. So we do that. We ensure we do that. Okay. So that is about it for how to deal with it. The general tips of managing exam stress still stay the same. That you have to pace yourself. सब कुछ एक दिन में नहीं करना. Don't pull all nighters. It doesn't really help that much. Try to sleep um, at least 7 hours, if not 8 to 10 hours, and eat something light that's easy in your stomach. You don't want extra stress on your day of exam where you have to keep on going to the loo, and the exam center bathrooms are not that great either. So try to make things as easy for you as you can. I don't believe that if you're preparing for entrance exam, you should not do anything else in your life. There should be a balance, and I feel if you maintain that balance, your preparation and your performance will be a lot better. So That's why it is important to pace yourself. If your exam is in 6 months, you start study accordingly. If your exam is in 12 months, you pace yourself. Again, this comes to the point that you need to build your study schedule on your by yourself, because you know how much time you have, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. We in Unique Psychological Services, particularly Unique Psych Academy, can help you do that better through my experience, through Gagan ma'am's experience, because we have charted this terrain of the competition that lies in the field of psychology. So that's all on my end. I will also just share our Instagram account of Unisci, where we share tips related to academics, related to therapy, related to internships that you can do. Our organization is reputed, and I can say it safely and with guarantee that our internships are top notch in the sense that they're experiential. You do not have to do clerical work. You can get hands on experience under supervision to get a taste of what lies if you do want to approach or pursue clinical psychology as a field. If you want academic assistance, our Unisci academic division is also there to help students. It's pretty student centric, and we value ourselves in being attached with our students in terms of their progress and remediating doubts as soon as we possibly can in 48 hours maximum. Right? Um, I'll share the Instagram account with you guys as well. So it's our handle is Unique Psychological, right? Do follow us. You'll get a lot of tips and tricks there as well. We try to update it regularly, and we do in fact do so. And our students who have been part of us have attested to the fact that it has been quite helpful for them. Additionally, I had to share some details about the combo pack. Now, uh, let me see if I can share it. If I can share it, that'd be helpful. But if I can't, then I'll see what I can do. Here, got it. Window here. Okay, so this is a combo pack that we're offering, because this is that session where this is that time in the year where all the exams begin, or all the exam preparatory cycle begins, right? So what we have done is, because of our students' request, we've actually made our coaching packages more affordable, because we understand that students cannot invest so much in preparation, and psychology entrance preparation can be quite exorbitant if you look at the market. So this is all that we have in our coaching packages. We call them combo packages because you're not only getting notes, but you're also getting comprehensive video lectures with doubt clearing sessions, 600 plus MCQ bank that will help you remediate. And I'm also working on a mock test series that will align to the new trends of the examination that I've been observing lately as I've been sitting for them. Additionally, here's the price breakdown that you can see. I have particularly made sure that all within the courses are aligned with how entrances are nowadays, because I've sat through them and experienced them firsthand, including having glossaries at hand, having revision guides at hand, having MCQs with solutions and explanation at hand, along with video lectures that ma'am has done herself, which are extremely effective if somebody is preparing for these exams in one go. Now, that will be all. Uh, that is all that I wish to discuss with you guys. If you have any doubts, we have 10 minutes to go. You can use the chat box to share any doubts that you have. I will clarify them here. Or you can reach out to us in the contact info that's given in the caption. The website is also linked in the caption so that you can explore the courses at your disposal and see whether the content is satisfactory to you, whether you would like to join. So yeah, that will be all. I'm here for some time, like 10 minutes more. So if you have any doubts, let me know. All right, since I feel like there are no doubts, I will take your leave. And it was very nice interacting with you all. Again, if you do have any doubts, do feel free to reach out to us. We'll get back to you promptly. Thank you. Have a great day.